The universe is loud in a very quiet way. Are you listening? Welcome to the Cosmic Whispers podcast, where we delve into the realms of spirituality, personal growth, and the cosmic dance between the third and fifth dimensions. In a world filled with noise and distractions, we invite you to tune in to your own cosmic whispers, where we can awaken our inner wisdom and embark on unveiling the authentic self and cosmic connection. Please note that the content provided here is not intended as medical advice. It is essential to consult your healthcare professional for any medical inquiries. Welcome to episode 7, part 2 with special guest Matt Toussaint. Matt Toussaint is program director and lead facilitator of Casa Del Maestro, a family-operated jungle-to-table ayahuasca center based in Peru. A native of Upstate New York with a background in cultural anthropology, Matt's innate connection to nature has always been profound. His initial ayahuasca experience in 2008 with esteemed curandero Maestro Alberto Torres Davila marked a pivotal shift in his life's trajectory. Matt's affinity for plant-based wisdom deepened, propelling him to eventually make Peru his home. From nurturing transformative journeys within private groups across 3 retreat centers to guiding personal one-on-one explorations, Matt's dedication to the healing potential of plant medicine has left an indelible impact. In 2021, he partnered with Maestro Alberto and the team at Casa del Maestro. Together, they continue to weave ancient traditions, shaping profound healing experiences for all who seek them. What's the importance of farm-to-table ayahuasca?
I love
how
that.
How do you source your ayahuasca? What's the process that you go through?
That's cool. Farm to table, that's like a recent way I've been describing it, because that's kind of what it is, how we do it. So we grow our ayahuasca. Some people listening to this probably know about ayahuasca, but for those who don't, ayahuasca is a concoction made from a variety of different plants, and there's one base plant. That's the ayahuasca vine. So it also has the name ayahuasca, and the vine, and then the drink made with it, plus a variety of other plants, is also called ayahuasca. So the ayahuasca vine we grow. So where we have our centers on Maestro Alberto's land, it's about 200 acres. It's outside of a small village up one of the main tributaries of, I say tributary, it's a massive river of the Amazon, but it's a tributary, I guess, relatively speaking, down here in the jungle, the Ucayali. And that's a historical ancestral area for plant medicine and ayahuasca practice. So we grow it on his land. He's got a couple of parcels of jungle. Some is not developed. The other place is where we have our center. So we have some growing there. We have some growing on the other side. And then we also have one of our trusted guides, true jungle guy, awesome, very knowledgeable man. And he's in Maestro Alberto's extended family, and he just knows the jungle. He also takes us out on excursions during our retreats, and we could go to the same place 10 weeks in a row, and he would have something new to say and to share. I love going out there because I always, every time, learn something new. So he goes out and he gets it in the local region. So it's all either grown right on our property, or the vine is harvested locally and gotten by him. All of the chacruna, which is kind of the second most important plant in the ayahuasca mix, which for the science people, that's the plant that contains the DMT. All of that we grow. Maestro Alberto's got a bunch of it, hundreds of plants on his property. So that's all grown. And then the tree barks, because we include a variety of tree barks in the ayahuasca. That's a really big part of how our plant medicine lineage works. The trees come from the neighboring jungle, the same jungle that we visit and we experience with our guests. So the participants, the people who are coming to the retreats, they get to actually go see the trees and the plants that they're dieting or that we're cooking into our ayahuasca as well. So everything is locally sourced, and then all the raw plants show up usually the day before we're going to cook it. And when I say they're raw, I mean they're raw. There's moss growing on them. There's usually bugs still crawling on them. There's ants that are like crawling all over the tree barks. I mean, it is straight from the earth to a bag, to a canoe, to our land. And then we, jungle style clean it off. And then we cook them. So we make the ayahuasca on site, and we go through a process to show our guests and the people there how it works. And everyone gets to participate, and they get to essentially see the plants from their physical form growing, also at different stages. So young plants, older plants, more mature plants that are closer to being ready to harvest, plants that are not, to the harvest. Then they get to see the plants and how they're prepared before they actually go in, and then participate in the process. And then they get to watch and witness the cook and how the actual plant material plus a whole bunch of water, some fire and time and expertise goes into creating the thing that they then drink that same evening.
That's amazing, because it's all that energy from the start of growth, even the energy from the insects, and the other living things around it. I mean, you're all touching it. And I think that really adds to the experience energetically.
Right. Yes. And people will discover that for themselves as they go through. After they make a brew, they get into ceremony, there's a difference. And it's a huge difference, actually, not just the process of making it, but the fact that we are locally sourcing it, and the environment of the jungle has a role to play. Mm-hmm. And it's an important one. And I feel, I've had experience with ayahuasca in other parts of the world as well. I feel that in the jungle is where it thrives, and where the expression of the plant medicine can go the deepest, and it can elevate and expand the most. It's just happier. The spirit of the medicine is just happier. It thrives in the jungle, and pulling from the jungle locally also connects people to the land, to the physicality of the land that we're on. And that provides a really strong starting point to then explore the other side of the medicine, the more mystical side of it.
And it's also providing, I would think, extra support.
Yes.
From their guides, from the jungle, from the plant, from the ants.
Yeah.
All living things have their spirit guides, right?
That's so true.
Yeah. And I mean, we had discussed this before, as like, I used to be a chef and I used to work in fine dining, and it was so important where we sourced our vegetables. Like at one place that I worked at, we had our own garden. And so I would forage the tomatoes and the flowers a couple hours before serving them. And that makes such a difference in terms of taste, in terms of the experience. And if you think about when you have a dining experience, there is an amount of psychic energy as well put into it, because it touches the hands of the chefs as well as the terroir. It's the terroir of the ayahuasca.
Totally.
It's really important.
It's so true. It really is. And people talk a lot about farm to table food and how important that is. It's the exact same principle. That's right.
I guess people don't really think about when they take psychedelics, like where it comes from, like even mushrooms or anything, but it's really important who touches it, because it's the intent of why someone is serving it to you, which I think is really important.
Yep.
And actually, it was our mutual friend that introduced us, that she mentioned when she was at your retreat, the ayahuasca she had was, I think it was more like thick and concentrated. And then I think she did go to another retreat and it was like tea. And she said the experience was just night and day. And she had definitely a more life-changing impact given the psychic energy of the farm to table experience.
That's right. If you look at spirit-based practices in different kinds of cultures throughout the world and across time, mostly back in time, pretty much all of them source their connection with the world of spirit through the environment that they're in. And so there is a difference when you are in the home of a lineage. Like, for instance, when I went to Thailand, the Buddhism there was just on fire. It was so alive. I was blown away by how powerful it was, and present and woven into the psychic landscape of the entire culture. It was amazing. I went there to learn Muay Thai, which was awesome as well. But that really stuck with me. And I was like, okay, well, this is the spiritual home of that tradition, or at least, one version of it. And I feel the same way in the Amazon with ayahuasca. And, you know, one metaphor that I've often used is that, like, when you take a plant out of its natural environment, you try to grow it, like a plant that's used to growing in the high desert, and you put it in a really humid climate, it can live, but it doesn't necessarily thrive. And I feel like there is an element to that with the expansion of ayahuasca around the world, that you just don't get the full immersion into it if you don't honor it in its home and where it's from. And perhaps some people might not agree with that. I can tell you from firsthand experience that there is definitely a difference, and it's clear, and it's a meaningful one.
It's kind of like wine, you know, you got to have it in the right terroir to have.
Right. That's so true.
Different terroirs of ayahuasca.
I mean, this is alchemy, right? I mean, you don't necessarily want your ayahuasca cooked into like coffee grounds and then flown across the world and then passing sneakily through customs and then recooked with water. I mean, but then again, maybe somebody who gets to experience that ayahuasca has a positive experience and it puts them on a better path. And so the healing work is still being done. I mean, I can certainly see why that could be beneficial.
Sure.
Nevertheless, going to the home and the source, you get something else out of it that is, in my view and through my experience, much deeper.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense to me. Absolutely. So tell me more about Maestro Don Alberto.
Yeah. So he's old school, traditional ayahuasquero. He's also what we call a palero, which is a tree medicine specialist, and a sananguero, which is a specialist in sanango medicines, which is a whole other class of plant medicines. And he was born in the same village where we currently have our center. And he started his training. He started he did his first diet, which was not to learn the practice, but it was administered to him to help make him ready to be a jungle person and go work and not be lazy and not sleep in. Right? So they gave him this hardcore plant diet when he was 8.
Oh, wow.
He tells this story so beautifully, but he essentially what happened is he bonded with the plant spirits right away. And then his elders, his grandparents were his main teachers. He comes from a long lineage. He's never been able to say exactly how many generations back, but he's just like, whoa, back, like way back. It's a lot. It's my guess is, you know, we're looking at several generations of lineage being passed down through his familial line. But his elders noticed, and that he not only had made the bond with the plants, but he was already able to sing their songs. And so he started training when he was 9.
Wow.
Yeah. And he's in his mid-60s. So he's had over 50 years of experience with plant medicine directly. I mean, that's way longer than I've been alive.
That's incredible.
It's insane. I mean, if I think about the amount of time that he's actually been in the plant medicine world, like in ceremony, it might be decades, you know, like time spent. It's a lot. So he is this. This is what he is, fully through and through, and until the day he no longer walks this earth, as he says. He is for me, he's been the kindest, the realest, and the most trusting maestro that I've ever sat with. I've sat with a lot, and not a lot, maybe between 10 and 12 throughout my journey. And he always just really stood out to me. And I have a ton of respect for him, not only as a practitioner, but also just as a person, and kind of the consistency with who he is and who he has been for many people. You know, he's very funny. He's very down to earth. He's a jokester. He's got a great sense of humor. He can be very lighthearted, hard worker, just a tank of energy. I mean, he's out shirtless in the farm almost every day with a machete in the blistering heat, just doing farm work, like chopping weeds with his machete in the middle of the day, and drink ayahuasca by night. And yeah, he's a farmer. You know, that's what he said to me before. He's like, if no one comes here to drink ayahuasca, you know what I'm going to do? The same thing I do every day. Tend to my family, tend to my farm, grow my plants, do my medicine. That's just who he is, fully through and through. He's the most old school kind. I don't know that there's many like him left. He was not brought up in like the school system. He was in the jungle learning plant medicine, basically from the time he was 9 onwards. He doesn't have a cell phone. He doesn't do anything related to media and modern technology, really. He's pretty much who he is and who he has been. They're rare. I don't meet many like that.
Sounds like a dream, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, he's legit. He's legit. And he carries himself with strength and purpose and humility and in equal measures. And I've just learned a lot just kind of being around the guy. You know, it's not like we sit down and he gives me plant medicine lectures for 3 hours. Like that doesn't really work in like the way it needs to work to really learn this medicine. That's not how you transmit the knowledge. That's not how you transmit the practice. He does it through embodiment and through example and through psychic connection. And so just being in and around his lifestyle and seeing how he is with his family and getting to know his family as well. He's got a huge family, several kids, 20 something grandkids.
Wow.
A couple of great grandkids. Wow. I mean, full on.
Are they learning the plant medicine as well?
Yeah. His son, Eliseo, who's also a maestro, who went through the training and who is very different natured than his father, but carries the medicine incredibly well and incredibly cleanly. And so he has one son who is following the path and will inherit sort of the family lineage when Maestro Alberto is ready to pass it on. I don't see that happening anytime soon. He's a sprightly 60-something-year-old guy, you know, very youthful in his energy and his being, as well as wise. And I'm not saying he's like the Dalai Lama, but every time you see the Dalai Lama, the guy's laughing, right? So there's like a bit of that youthful joy that he carries. So his one son is learning and sits with us and is part of holding and expressing and doing the healing work with us in ceremony. His name is Eliseo, and he's young, but he's been at this himself for like 15 years.
And what's the youngest age they start administering ayahuasca, generally speaking? I guess it depends on the tribe.
It does. It would. I've heard of people giving like just a touch on one's finger to a newborn even, or to a small infant. So that would be the youngest. The youngest I've seen is like 7 or 8. And even in that instance, and these are locals, this is not people that are coming to our retreats. There's a whole bunch of reasons why that's not a good idea. Though we do have children sometimes come with their parents and get treatment. They just don't drink the plants. But often kids are so, you know, psychically open and sensitive anyway that they don't necessarily need to. So I've seen some really amazing things happen with young children. But the youngest I've seen child is about 7 or 8, local person. And it's just like half a teaspoon. It's just a tiny amount.
They wouldn't serve like the whole cup.
It depends.
They start at 8 and eventually, I think it depends on their journey, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. You know, Maestro's grandparents were probably even more old school than him. You know, that was a different time back then. And in some ways, the real hardcore jungle tradition is there's one dose, it's a full cup, and that's what you're drinking no matter what. If you want to learn, that's what you have to do. That may be the case for someone who's constituted and who grows up in this world, but that is not the way that we would work with people, for instance, who come. You don't just full cup everyone. There's a whole bunch of reasons why that's not a good idea. That's not the right way to do. And, you know, Maestro agrees with me, but that is the way that he learned. And they would, like you're saying, depending on the context, give a larger dose to somebody younger if necessary. I've never seen it, though. It's usually small amounts, or they just don't drink. They just participate and get healing.
You guys are heavily focused on dieta, right?
Yeah, dieta is a pretty important part of the tradition in the way we work. And when people talk about dieta nowadays, there's kind of two things that they're meaning. One is what's safe to consume and what's best to consume food-wise, while drinking ayahuasca. And then there's the plant dieta, which is a totally, completely separate thing, separate practice that is independent of ayahuasca, but can be done together, which is what we do on our retreat. So for people doing the dieta, that is a whole nother layer and dimension to the work. That's really the foundation of the entire plant medicine practice and how I understand it. That's where it starts, is with your dieta.
And what does that entail, and when do you start? I actually don't know much about dieta.
Sure. Dieta, it's really not about the food that you're eating. What a diet really is a designated period of time that one is following a series of behavioral and dietary restrictions in order to make contact, bond with, and form a relationship with a plant. And that would be the plant that they're dieting with, or number of plants if you do more than one at the same time.
Got it.
So it's more like a spiritual fast. It's an intended process of opening and deepening a channel, developing a relationship with the plant spirit in order to heal, or in order for that plant spirit to teach you. And it seems to me that this practice, and I'm venturing on a limb here. Oh, that was a good pun. I'm venturing on a limb that the dieta is older than ayahuasca practice. I feel like the way that the diets are set up, they're designed to put you into an altered state, even though the plant concoctions that you're drinking in most cases are not psychoactive. But the dietary restrictions, the limitations of food, the behavioral restrictions, the celibacy, the sobriety, the isolation, the minimal sort of contact with other people while you're in that space, slowly but surely shifts you into a state where you are put in touch with the spirit world. And that is the way that Amazonians have discovered, was to not only get in touch with the spirit world, but to learn from it and to receive medicine, knowledge, wisdom, and also information, things that were useful to life in the jungle. It's a way to learn about the environment, your surroundings, and all of the multiple relationships that come out of the context where you live. And so to me, it was a way that Amazonian people were able to live in the jungle from survivability all the way up to this deep, fundamental connection with the spiritual environment as well. That's how they learned about the world. And the plants are repositories of information and wisdom. And so when you do a diet, you are downloading that and you are learning how to access it for yourself. Now, what's interesting is that the diet also teaches individuals that same very thing, that same set of that context with regard to learning about one's environment, except they will teach you about your environment. So they will teach you and help you learn about the environment that you immerse yourselves in, within your own psyche, within your emotions, within your work, within your city, within your physical body, within all of the multiple relationships with people, things, and spirits, etc., that you are immersed in. They will show you kind of where you are within that complex of interrelationships, and then they can guide you to how to essentially make that environment really, really healthy, productive, and positive, and producing, fruit and flowers and benefit for yourself and all within your environment. So it's like your inner environment that they teach you about. The technicality of the diet, the way we do it. Now, I should state that there are many ways that different lineages and practitioners host diets. So there's variation around there. The way that we do it is a very bland diet of food. So you're talking rice, plain yuca, green plantains, a boiled or cooked river fish, like a specific kind of river fish, eggs, cucumber, and that's it.
I mean, that sounds delicious to me, but
it's actually not too bad. I'm starting one tomorrow, as a matter of fact. I mean, but no salt, no oils. Everything is cooked completely bland.
Yeah, the no salt part is difficult.
That's what gets you.
Everything else sounds great.
That's right. That's what really gets you. It's true. 3 or 4 days into that, you really start to feel it. So that's the food. It's very limited. It's very strict, and there's really no modifications to it. Not many. Again, understanding that other people might include other things in their diets. Those diets might be for different purposes or something like that. But these diets are done this way, and there's also behavioral restrictions. So like no alcohol, no other kinds of plant medicines or mind altering substances, no tea, no coffee, nothing like that, like nothing else psychoactive, no sex, complete celibacy, including mind, thoughts,
Wow.
fantasy, as well as dreams. So you're practicing neutrality with regard to your sex for, in our case, in most cases, it's the period that you're doing the diet, which is 8 or 9 days. And then it's another 30 days after that. So I like to look at the whole diet experience, including like the couple days leading up to it, getting ready, the actual diet, and then what we call the post diet as like a 40-day process that you're entering into with the plants once you start. And there's also a restriction on eating pork of any kind for several months afterwards. The amount of that can change depending on who you're working with, but it's typically 90 days up to 6 months. No pork.
And why pork?
What they say here is that pork it's not a very clean animal in terms of what it eats. It doesn't discriminate on what it's going to eat. It'll eat anything, including other pigs. It doesn't have sweat glands. I know that's true of a lot of animals, though. But it's also very dense and very fatty. Pigs eat trash.
Mm-hmm.
Like all the connotation around pigs. I mean, I got nothing against pigs. They're actually quite amazing. They're very sentient.
I love pigs. I don't eat pork anymore, but
yeah, they're cool. And I don't eat them. I don't eat them either. But it's very dense, and I like to think of plants as entities or energies that require spaciousness. They like space. Even in their root systems, they need oxygen and they need space to move and grow. And really dense things like that. This is also true for dense energies, but like a really dense fatty meat counteracts that need within the plant. So it just doesn't jive very well physically in the body, but also in more subtle ways. And so pork is restricted for those reasons for that period of time, which essentially gives the plants enough time to establish themselves. Because when you're dieting, what you're doing is you're transferring the spiritual essence of the plant, and you're then putting it inside your body and letting it grow within you. And so you need also to create an environment that is stable and neutral for it to be able to make your landscape, your psychic internal environment, its home. That's also why the food is so bland, because it's like removing as many variables as possible. You can also do diets where they're silent diets, where you're in total isolation. I've done them like this before, where I'm not seeing other people. I'm not talking to other people. I'm in my own little hut and in the forest, just dieting the plant. No ayahuasca, just the plant, the plants that I'm dieting, the bland food. I've done them where I've made my own food at a camp that, nobody was at for the time being. And, you can do them, for instance, with no music, no entertainment, nothing to read. You can really limit basically what you're consuming. Mm-hmm. That includes your food, but it also includes what you're psychically consuming. And the whole idea around all of these different ways of practicing the diet is to create the sort of the best case scenario to really bond with the plant while you're doing it. That's the goal of the diet.
I mean, it sounds more challenging than the ayahuasca itself.
It is.
Because it's like deprivation. It's deprivation of a lot of things.
It's much more challenging. It's much more of a commitment. Yeah, they're way more challenging, I'd say, in different ways too, and in ways that you're not ready for, particularly after. You get 2-3 weeks into your 30-day celibacy and sobriety restriction protocol afterwards. That's when you start to realize the momentum of these plants and what they're doing inside of you is actually happening. Like that's really when it starts to come online and become more present. It's typically far after the diet. The diet itself can be really subtle and just kind of dragging through it. It can be hard, challenging, low energy, sleeping. Your dreams are usually off the charts during diets. You're getting all kinds of interesting messages and realizations through your dreams. And then afterwards, it tends to really take shape and form in your life. And that's for me how it was. I didn't really realize what the diet was about until I did them and I saw them through afterwards. It was, weeks after I left the jungle when I had done the diet down there and I was back home in New York. And it's like, oh, this is what the diet is about. And the potential for change with the diet is, especially with diet and ayahuasca together, it's more of a long-term trajectory. So it generates momentum that leads to more long-term fundamental change. Ayahuasca tends to address things that are immediate, which can also lead to long-term profound change. But there's a slower tempo to the diet that tends to go deeper and then take longer to emerge. But then once it's done, those changes are often really core to the person. So in some sense, it is a deeper process with the diet, and that's why people do it. And then that's also why they do it again, because they see 6 months, 8 months, a year later, the result of the dieta rather than just with ayahuasca. And I say just with ayahuasca, I mean, they really work together. There's no better or worse. But I find that with the diet, it's almost like the bass line in a band. It provides this kind of background structure for then the expression of the ayahuasca to grow and build upon. It's much like how trees and vines work together in nature, as a matter of fact, because the vine needs a tree to climb, and the diet, you're dieting trees and you're drinking ayahuasca, the vine. And so there's this synergistic, expanded effect that takes place when you work with all those plants together. And that's really Maestro Alberto's tradition, is the diet with the trees and working with ayahuasca to really, bring it all together and put everything online and shape the journey and the consciousness in the time that you're doing it. And then the dieta can carry you for a long time. It can take years to integrate a diet. I had diets that I did like 5 or 6 years ago recently introduce themselves to me. The plants that I dieted, it's like I didn't even see them. I barely even knew they were there, but they were. And then they came in at a moment that was really critical. There's these 2 specific trees and they came together, and it was something I'd done 5 years in the past. So that's what I mean by there's this momentum that's more geared towards long-term change and evolution with the dieta.
Have you ever felt like you need a little grounding when the full moon hits? Perhaps you want to open your third eye a bit before meditation, get your creative juices flowing for a project, or balance some womb healing? Cosmic Mama ceremonial herbal teas for the chakras can help. Our 100% organic, sustainably sourced, and caffeine-free blends are meticulously handcrafted in small batches. Whether you're looking for an herbal infusion to complement an intentional moment or ceremony, or you just want to enjoy a soothing and delicious brew, Cosmic Mama is here for you. You can support our podcast and enjoy 15% off with code WHISPERS15 on cosmicmama.co. Indulge in the magic of Cosmic Mama ceremonial herbal teas and let their harmonizing essence guide you on your path of connection and well-being. I mean, it sounds like there's so many benefits to that kind of investment that you make to your own body and your own psyche.
Yeah, that's true. It's a good way to put it. It is. It's more of a commitment, but there's more benefits on the other side.
Okay. I mean, I haven't done ayahuasca yet. It's been on my to-do list for a really long time. I've been waiting for that moment for it to call, so I can mentally prepare myself now.
Amazing. Well, the way you speak about it and the way you speak about just how energy works, it seems like, it's something that you're familiar with. So you're familiar with that world in some way.
Definitely. I think I've tried so many things.
Right.
But I think I also was putting ayahuasca kind of on this pedestal, like, oh, this is like the all-knowing psychedelic plant,
Right.
But I think just given the information that I'm getting from you, I'm feeling less nervous about it.
Oh, that's good to hear.
Because I know it's going to be an intense experience. And I think the dieta, I mean, I've been like a biohacker for like almost 10 years. So cutting things out of my diet is not a problem. I got to say though, the salt in the coffee might be a problem. But everything, like cutting everything else, like whatever, that's fine. I can do it. But yeah, this is all very fascinating for me. And to know it on this deep of a level, it's really comforting actually.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of what I like to do with our people who come and work with us is try to just bring it down to earth and normalize it and, actually make it comforting, because a lot of
Yeah.
what's in the media around ayahuasca is really sensationalized.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure you'll blast off to space. That's fine.
Right.
You're going to talk to the machine elves.
Right.
But I think it is about also being comfortable in the space that you provide.
Yeah.
Which is one of the most important factors. It's such a complex process.
It is. It's deep, and it is a profound medicine, profound experience for many people, and it should be respected fully.
Absolutely.
But not
yes.
You can be really serious and hold it sacred while also being really humble and casual, and that's kind of how we like to share what it is, and that makes it easier for people to discover for themselves what it is, and that is so meaningful for me.
Speaking of worship, how has it been in your experience for kind of like the dark side of ayahuasca? Because I think with a lot of these spiritual modalities, when it goes a little bit too far, it starts to turn kind of culty. And that's where it gets dangerous.
Yeah. That happens. In some ways, the world of ayahuasca, pre-modern involvement, it has elements of darkness to it, and the same kind of practices that are utilized to create healing environments can be utilized to create harming environments. And there's, for instance, different plants and stuff that people will diet with in order to learn how to, wreak havoc rather than bring cohesion, and to cause harm and fragmentation and confusion rather than to bring healing, unity, and clarity, which are expressions of the medicine. And it's a part of the world, and it's something that in ayahuasca, I think, needs to be contended with, but not obsessed over. And I find that the path of the medicine in ayahuasca is very simple, and it's very clear. And it's a path of service and ultimate humility. And when people get drawn to the darker elements of ayahuasca, it becomes a lot more about power. And often you see that is what is behind different kinds of groups that might form cult-like communities or behaviors. And that ends up being also an expression of more separation rather than closeness and unity. And that separation is a distance from the principles that guide the medicine. And I think people also too come to ayahuasca with a lot of unresolved aspects of themselves in their life. And, if ayahuasca is done in a way that either the person giving it to you doesn't have your best intention, or you're not using it in a way that is respectful or for the ultimate benefit of yourself, then you can be led astray and get lost, kind of like I was talking before, in that world, and start to make relationships with spirits and energies and aspects of your psyche that would be considered dark or no longer representing qualities that would be expressed through a practice of medicine and healing. And people can get kind of lulled or enchanted into that world. And so you got to be really careful, right? That's also why you don't overdo it. That's why you're very conscientious about who and where and when and why you are choosing to interact with the plant, and what your intentions really are, and really getting to know the people and trusting your kind of gut instinct around certain things about what space you go into. Because in my experience, there are far less people working with ayahuasca for ultimate benefit than there are people working with ayahuasca for other reasons. And often you can see that in the language around this kind of focus on power and personal aggrandizement, sort of the egotistical shaman archetype. And that's an expression of something that somebody who wants to find real healing with as little mess and collateral as possible would not benefit from.
All right.
And kind of like what I was saying before as well, like just drinking ayahuasca does not make you more spiritual or more better or a better person or a more compassionate or loving, open-hearted kind of person. And that's also true for the people who are practicing ayahuasca. And it's still the human psyche. And so every dark, shady corner that every one of us has in our world has to be sort of engaged and dealt with in that way, whether or not you're enhancing that with plant medicine. If you're going to be a practitioner and you're going to enhance those parts of your psyche, then they have to be managed in a way that is in alignment with the integrity of what it is you're doing. And if what it is you're doing is healing, then you have to get your shit together. You have to get it in line to be able to do that, to hold that line for other people. Because the reality is too, is that you're dealing with darkness in a healing ceremony as well, because that's often what is coming up for people, because that's where the suffering is held within them. And so it's not so much that there's a dark side to ayahuasca in as much as there's a dark side to the human psyche and to the experience of life anyway. And so ayahuasca tends to expand and enhance that. And just because you're in that world and you're working it and you're a healer and you know you're somebody giving medicine to another person, there is nothing saying that that person has dealt with their shit. And if they haven't, then they can unconsciously or in cases directly and intentionally be wielding those psychic forces that ends up not being good for the people who are sitting with them. And that can be abject harm, but it can also be, which is what a lot of the practice ends up looking like, is trickery and illusion. And so people are like casting illusions on people. And that's where you start to see people starting to worship the practitioners of the medicine rather than maintaining this clean relationship with the medicine.
That's really dangerous, actually.
It is. It's
psychically dangerous.
Yeah, right. And that's what it would be called. It would essentially be called sorcery.
Yeah.
Where the source of the power becomes about the person rather than the source of the power, which is the universe itself and its creator. Maestro Alberto is so funny because he'll be like, you know what? They call them brujos. They're like, these brujos, he's like, they don't get it. There's one power. It's God. End of story.
Yeah.
That's it. But still, it doesn't mean that you still don't have to learn how to navigate all of that when you're in this dualistic spiritual composite of everything. It is true, but it's like we're still immersed in the illusion. And so knowing how to navigate those kinds of states within yourself and others is an important skill for the ayahuasquero and for the human being to kind of know where they are and what they're doing in the world. I mean, we deal with this everywhere. We deal with this in every kind of industry. There's like, you know, the dark forces of the human psyche expressing itself. And this practice is no different. It just comes enhanced with these psychic capabilities. So you're right, that can be dangerous.
I had spoken about this in my couple other podcasts on the importance of using your intuition and learning your energetic resonance with a healer. And that, you know, one healer could be great for one person, but not the other.
Also true.
To always just be extremely mindful and to check in with yourself. I mean, I love referrals for healers and I prefer them through people that I know. But at the same time, there's always a measure of checking in, like energetically. Is this the right time? Is this an energetic resonance with this healer? Which is super important, can like make or break your journey with whatever tool you're using.
Yep.
And I think because ayahuasca has been put on a pedestal, sometimes people don't think about that. And they're like, oh, I'm just going to drink ayahuasca. But it is so important on who's holding space. along with the jungle, along where it's being sourced, like all the moving parts to it.
Yep, that's right.
Do you guys administer combo?
No.
Or rape or any of that?
No, hape it's just not one of the plants that Maestro Alberto works with. So we don't have that there. And combo is also, stewarded by the Matzes tribal people who are actually, they're not far. In fact, we have the combo frogs honking during our ceremonies all the time. So we're in ancestral lands where that is, but it's not something that Maestro has worked with. So that's not part of what he does.
Is that regional then, I guess?
Yeah. It comes from that area. And I'm not exactly sure what other areas that type of frog is and where those traditions are, but I know that it's very much in that region with the Matzes people, which is right along the border between Peru and Brazil. And there's two massive reservations out there for the Matzes. They call themselves the Mayuruna cat people. They're known to put plant spines and these tattoos on their face to make them look like they have whiskers. Fascinating story. One of very wild, hard to contact tribe, and so they were original stewards of combo. There could be others in the Amazon. I'm not sure, but I do know that they are among the most well known.
Have you done combo before?
No.
Oh, okay, interesting.
No, I never have, and I'm not necessarily against it, but for me at this point, I need to have really, really good reasons to try or to take of any kind of substance. There has to be very clear delimitation of what it is that I'm doing. Because I'm so deep in this particular branch of plant medicine, I don't tend to wander. In fact, I don't wander to try things. But if there happened to be a really good reason and things lined up that was something that would be good for me, I would be open to it. But I don't go looking for it anymore. I used to, but not anymore.
If it's not calling, it's not calling. Simple as that.
Exactly.
How is the process for attending your retreat center?
Sure. So we have a website. It's Casa Del Maestro Medicina.com. And maybe we can put that somewhere in the description. But
yeah, I'll put it in the show notes.
Yeah. So our calendar's on the website. We have set dates. We're running around 15 to 16 retreats a year. So that's 1 or 2 a month. And people look for dates. Then there's a booking process, deposit. And then once you register and put the deposit down, we will then provide you with a link to the health form, and we do a health screening. So there's a bunch of questions about physical health, mental health, kind of your overall holistic state of emotional well-being, where you're at, why you're looking to come to do ayahuasca. And we have, a number of questions ranging from the real mundane physical stuff to things that are, more involved with your process, to kind of get to know people and get an understanding of, first of all, what they're looking for, but also if there's any potential medical issues or conditions that would make the experience either need to be modified or not possible for them. Once people do that, then if needed, there's a back and forth. Sometimes we'll have them talk to their doctor about certain things if that's necessary. Most people who tend to come to our center, because we're located pretty far out and it's quite a commitment, most people are really well prepped ahead of time. We tend to get what I would call mature people who are looking for a deep medicine experience and not necessarily looking for amenities along the way. Our space it's modern, but it's rustic at the same time. It's all local style built buildings, and it's in the jungle. It's out there. It's not close, so you have to commit to the journey as well, which is a great part of it. I actually love taking the boat up the river to get out there. Once the medical form is cleared, then we provide people with a welcome packet, which essentially lays the process out in terms of travel schedules, different airlines to use, what the first day is like, where we have to be and when, preparation material for how to prepare yourself psychologically, spiritually, emotionally for the journey, hotel recommendations, information about Peru and the local area of Iquitos and everything like that. A lot of the information, a portion of it is on our website. And then we send people who register a more involved version of that. And then we touch base again about a week before to kind of go over final details. And then we meet here in Iquitos and we take the journey from Iquitos to the casa together.
How many nights of ayahuasca are you providing for each retreat? Does it vary depending on your needs?
It does vary, yeah. Our core retreat is 9 days, 5 ceremonies, which
oh wow,
it's a lot.
It's intense,
but it's a sweet spot. I mean, yeah, it's an intense journey. I've done it different. I've done 10 days with 5 ceremonies. I've done 8 days with 4. We've done 7 with 3. I've had people come for just 2 ceremonies before. So there's a lot of, I've experienced and guided different lengths of time with different number of ceremonies. This to me has really been the sweet spot. So that's why we do it that way. It's enough time, it's enough medicine, but there's just enough time as well to kind of sit and rest. We have a couple full days where we're not doing any plant medicine, including the day before we leave. So that's like our standard retreat, core retreat, 9 days with 5 ceremonies. We also do a special diet retreat with Sanango, which a plant called Uchu Sanango, which is 12 days with 3 ayahuasca ceremonies and 3 ceremonies with Sanango, which is one of the plants that we diet with, which does have quite a substantial physical effect, which is why you don't drink ayahuasca with it. So you're really coming to do this diet to connect with the healing plant that is Sanango. And then you carry the diet for several days without ingesting any plant medicine. And then we finish the week with 3 ceremonies. And then next year, we're starting to offer dieta-focused retreats where everyone who comes is going to be dieting with the trees. And these are going to be 11 days. So a couple of days longer with 6 ceremonies. So there's one more ceremony over a longer stretch of time, but then there's also an extra day of downtime. The focus of these are going to be specialized towards the dieta process, not only in terms of the actual experience of the diet, but we're going to go into detail on how to translate the dieta experience into practice at home. That doesn't mean doing diets at home, but it means carrying that energy,
like the learning that you have.
Exactly. And so that's the first one of those that we're offering next year is in, I think it's end of March, early April.
Can you do it back to back? Can you do like a dieta retreat and then move over to an ayahuasca?
You could. That we do have people come for 3 weeks to a month and they'll do 2 during that period of time. That does happen. And usually that's people who are either really serious, who are learning, and they've been impacted in a real profound way and they just want to go deeper. And then often sometimes it's just like a travel thing, meaning for the next 2 years, this is the only time I'm going to have a full month off. I'm going to go spend it in the jungle.
Have you worked with a lot of people who suffer from addiction to come to specifically heal their addiction with ayahuasca?
Yes. Yeah, I guess I would consider that a lot. Yeah, many. It's relatively common, actually, for people to come and address that with ayahuasca. Ayahuasca is a great medicine for that, especially in terms of letting people really get a good look at it and what it's like and what it's doing to themselves and their lives in a way that is, in some sense, impersonal. You get to see it for what it is. That clarity often is enough for people to really want to make change. Not always, though. Usually, in most cases, people who are coming to root out addiction will do diets because that tends to provide a stronger entry back into the world because you're in that dieta cocoon for those 30 days. You know, you're not meant to be consuming other substances, and that really helps people. But also the dieta itself and the plants that you diet are really, really good at repatterning relationships and how you're oriented towards things in your lives. And often something that somebody is addicted to, what needs to change is the relationship and the orientation to it. And the diet can be unbelievably effective at getting that planted inside you at a deep level for you to then go carry out. And often people will come out of it, and this was true for me, but it's like a natural just movement away from the addiction. Like the need isn't there anymore. And that's what ayahuasca as well can be really good at addressing, is helping you find ways to fulfill the need that are healthy. I like to look at addiction as a signal. It's like an alarm. And something is not being met inside the person. Something is not being seen, addressed, or dealt with. And it just keeps getting louder and louder and louder and louder and louder. And often the addiction is what it does is it drowns out that signal, or at least it tries to. It tries to bury it and cover it, literally desensitize it. And so these medicines can help you not only turn the signal down, they can also help you find out where the signal's coming from, the point of origin, and then fill that in with things that are more representative of you as a healthy, fulfilled person. And that process, in many cases, will lead someone deciding for themselves to not continue the same pattern.
Right. And it goes to the root, no pun intended, the root of the problem,
It does.
of the trauma itself.
That's right.
On a way deeper level that sometimes you just can't do in your conscious mind.
That's right. What I've noticed is that, like, even people, let's say, who had struggled with addiction, let's say alcohol, for 20 years, and then they've been sober for 10, they come and they drink ayahuasca and they realize that they're actually still, in a way, holding on to that imprint. In other words, they're still identifying and patterning being addicted. Hasn't totally been resolved. And so even being clear of the substance, there's often more to do beneath it. And that's exactly what you're describing. That's the root of it. And that is what the plants are really good at helping you get to.
Well, it's also the safe space, right? With anyone with trauma or trying to get out of a dark space, if they've been in it so long.
That's right. There's
the attachment to it.
Yep.
For comfort, which sometimes you just need a little extra help in pushing it out of your system. I think with some of the addiction programs, or not using ayahuasca to treat it, I think some of the narrative almost keeps you in that space of like, I'm still an addict.
Yep.
I generally think if you identify yourself with something like, I am this, I am that, it stays there. Mm-hmm. From my perspective, it sounds like the medicine can break that narrative.
Yes.
in your psyche.
Definitely.
That's so powerful. That can help so many people.
I agree. I've seen it. I mean, I've seen it. And that's why I do this. Ultimately, it's because I see the results. I've experienced them and I see it in other people. And there's just value in that.
DJing has provided me with a channel for creativity as well as another form of meditation. Stay tuned for one of my cosmically curated DJ sets coming up shortly. I'm so fascinated by Mother Aya and her power. Yeah,
your questions are great. They really are.
I mean, I just have more questions. But
that's why you're doing a podcast. You're good at it.
Thanks. Yeah, I mean, we can talk forever, and I think we should probably wrap up right now. If you wanted to share again how people can contact you,
the best way is to reach us through our website. We'll put that in the notes. Casa Del Maestro Medicina.com. We have Facebook and Instagram for the Casa as well. We can share the connections there. People get in touch with us through the social media channels as well. I have a personal Facebook page that I sometimes share stuff on, so I can put that in there.
I really appreciate this talk. Let me know whenever you're down for another one.
Great. Thank you very much. This was great.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I'll talk to you really soon. Have a great dieta tomorrow, right?
Yes, I go out tomorrow with the group.
Awesome. Good luck with that.
Cool. Thank you, Joan.
Of course.
Talk to you soon. Have a good night. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you for being a part of our community. Be sure to connect with me by hitting subscribe on whatever platform you're listening on. I greatly appreciate your support and would be thrilled if you could leave a review. Your reviews help this podcast reach a wider audience and foster stronger collective connection. You can also connect with me on Instagram and YouTube at The Cosmic Whispers Podcast. Thanks for listening.
ocean, hear my song. You're the wave I was made from. Take me back to where we once began. Ocean father, I was wrong. Years I followed just the sun. Now I see your darkness holds the key. I close my eyes and I begin to see. When we're alone.
If there were no rich, no poor, if everyone were equal, religion would be soon to disappear. People only develop religion when they're unhappy with this world.
If you like what you hear and would like to check out the full set, be sure to find me, Cosmic Mama, on SoundCloud. That's soundcloud.com/Cosmic Mama.